Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. Well, one of the dominoes has fallen. Patrick Graham is being named defensive coordinator for the New York Giants. We're going to get into Patrick a little bit and talk about who he is, what his scheme is, what he runs, what he may bring to the Giants. And then we are going to do a quick reassessment of the Giant free agents that we had spoken about earlier that we may want to potentially bring in. But now that we have a defensive scheme, it's going to be a little bit easier to have that conversation. Before we get into that, I just wanted to say one thing. You see other you see other things, and you read other things, and you try not to comment on anyone else's site. But sometimes when people have misinformation, you just kind of have to. Just so people understand, yes, the draft is the way to build a team. The problem is you still need free agency because per the collective bargaining agreement, you need to spend at least 89% of your salary cap. So yes, while the draft is a fantastic way to build a team and the way to do it, you still need to spend your salary cap. That's the way owners don't tank and just keep the money. But that's neither here nor there. I just don't like hearing misinformation like that because then people online are like, oh, well, this guy knows what he's talking about. It's like, no, you have to still spend your salary cap. It's still, as much as I would like to say you don't have to, you kind of still have to. So, but let's get into Mr. Graham. Mr. Graham, of course, spent 2 seasons over with us as our defensive line coach. I don't take a lot of stock into that because it was during the McAdoo era. But if you look at it, he's got a pretty good career. I mean, he played defensive line at Yale. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in sociology. He went to Wagner, Richmond, Notre Dame, Toledo. He was a Patriots coaching assistant going back to 2009. He was basically with the Patriots till 2015 until he took the stint with a defensive line coach with the Giants, and then he worked with the Packers as a linebackers coach and a running game coordinator, and then he was promoted to the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator position back in 2019, which was just last year. Now, everyone knows that the Dolphins were not a defensive juggernaut and powerhouse, and everyone's probably wondering, what is Mr. Patrick Graham's defense going to look like? Well, luckily, we know a lot of people in Miami, and we lived in Miami, so and we watched a lot of Miami games because we have a lot of friends that like the Dolphins. Why, I don't know. Some people are going to be more surprised to understand that he runs more of a hybrid defense. It's scary in the fact that he runs almost not a Bettcher defense, but he does run a hybrid 4-3-3-4, and he uses multiple roles for his players. Now, he does have a lot of exotic type blitzes, but he really wants to gain pressure off 3-4, just basically the 3-4 front linemen. He wants pressure off of them so he can use his linebackers basically just to stop the run and secondary to cover. I mean, it's a basic defensive system. Now, the only issue is, was his defense in Miami his defense or Brian Flores' defense, the head coach of Miami? I'm only bringing that up is because Brian Flores was a defensive coach and is known as a defensive coach. So you can assume that they're going to run similar systems. I don't know. It's hard to say. You don't know how much input Flores had into Graham's defense. You don't know. And Graham did do all the play calling, but again, like you said, you're not sure how much of it was Brian Flores' defense or Patrick Graham defense. So that's going to be kind of interesting. Now, like I said, if we go by what we saw on the field in Miami, he does run, like I said, it's a hybrid 4-3-3-4. But like I said, he likes to get the rush from either the 4-down lineman or the 3-down lineman and uses linebackers really to just stop the run. I mean, it's a simplistic defense, so it's not going to be like James's defense where, it was pretty crazy. Now, a lot of people look at it and say, well, he had the 30th ranked defense and the Giants blew him out of the water. So, I mean, yeah, that's true. He did. And the Giants did beat him But if you take a look at the last 5 games, or excuse me, the last 9 games in Miami, Miami was 5-4. And it's interesting because of the fact, like I said, they beat some good teams, they beat some bad teams. The problem is they gave up a lot of points, even in the process. I mean, if you take a look at the points total that they gave up in those games, looking at 24, 35, 36, 22, 31, 41, 37. So, I mean, they did hold the Colts to 12 points in a win. They held the Jets to 18 points in a win. But again, you got Jacoby Brissett, and you got you got the Jets, and the Jets are the Jets. So I mean, so you'll take a look at this and you go, well, what is you have to also remember with Graham is he didn't really have a lot of talent in Miami. A lot of his talent got either released or traded away. So he was kind of playing with the bare cupboard. But like I say, he did focus on like stopping the run. It's one of those things that if you take a look, you have Jerome Baker, who led the team with 124 tackles and 1.5 sacks, at a linebacker position. And then you also take a look to McMillan had 71 tackles as well. The problem is just like the Giants, outside of Marcus Golden, the pass rush wasn't there. I mean, the leader of the Dolphins had 3.5 sacks. So can we say, does his defense work or does his defense not work? Honestly, we don't know. Because of the fact that, like I said, it's difficult to tell if it was completely his defense or if it was partially Brian Flores' defense. So going back, we did a video and we picked out some free agents that we wanted the Giants to sign. But now that we have a defensive coordinator and we've taken a look at his system and we watched a little bit of film and we see what he runs and how he works, we kind of want to re-update what we decided. I'm sorry, the defensive leader was 5 sacks for the Dolphins because I forgot about the taco. But like I said, now that we've gone through some of it, we need to just kind of determine, or what we feel would be a good fit for the team itself, bringing in some players. And like I said, what I wanted to take a look at first was the secondary. With so many young guys in the secondary, I was thinking right off the bat that with Peppers coming back, Love can slide back into his corner position and help increase the corner position itself. And we can look at maybe picking up another safety. Now, Anthony Harris is going to be an unrestricted free agent. 4-year pro out of Virginia. Was played in about 15 games. He started 14, 60 tackles, but he had 6 interceptions. Now, like I said, I don't know what the total market value is going to be for a strong safety because that is a little bit dicey. Because if you take a look like at Earl Thomas. It was at $13 million. You got Jackson, he was at $14 million. Eddie Jackson, that is. You got the Honey Badger at $14 million. Is he going to command a top salary? If we could pick him up for 3 years, $12 million, $36 million, you know what? I'd be happy with that. I think if he's between the $12 and $14 million range, I think that he would fall into place for the Giants, and I think he would be a fantastic addition because of the fact that he is going to add stability into the offense itself. And honestly, that is what we really need. Because like I said, with such a young secondary, I really feel that the secondary that we have, we really can, if we had some, and I've said it before, if we have a veteran presence, and he's a young veteran at 28, and if we had a veteran presence, I really think that that could go a long way for us. And I am leaving the secondary, I wanted to go towards the outside linebackers and the defensive line. Since he runs such a hybrid defense, I'm going to stick with Dante Flower. That's a joke. That's a joke, everyone. I don't want, I was calling him Flowers. Fowler. So I said, don't bust my chops over this, okay? I was just making a joke. So Flower and Fowers and Fowler. So say that 10 times fast. All right, like I said, you bring in Dante. Dante is still going to give you the pressure from the outside position. He can also put his hand down in the dirt and come at you from the defensive line position as well. He's probably going to come in base salary. I would say his base salary with his total yearly cap space last year was $12 million. Yeah, he earned a payday with the Rams last year. I mean, you take a look at it, he played 16 games, he started 10, 11 and a half sacks, 58 tackles. So you know what? He 2 forced fumbles as well. So he made his chops last year. But he would be, if we're going to run a hybrid type defense, he is a guy that can play, like I said, the linebacker position, and that he can also, like I said, put his hand on the ground and still rush the quarterback. And that's why, like I said, that's what we're going to need, because, like I said, we really need someone that's really going to solidify the defense, and especially if we can sign Marcus Golden and put him on the opposite end of him. The other person I was looking at again was, and a lot of people mentioned it, was Barnett out of Tampa. He was, I think he's, how old is he now? He's 27 years old. He's another one that he worked his way up through the roster, through the league itself. If I recall correctly, he started with the Denver Broncos as an undrafted free agent as well. Worked his way up through the system. He kind of reminds me, again, of someone that we could use that can also blitz the quarterback itself. Someone that could also play from the linebacker position. And like I said, I think that he has 19 and a half sacks last year, 6 forced fumbles, 1 interception. So he earned himself a payday. His value last year, his contract last year was only $5 million. His market value right now, you're probably looking at $15.7 million. So between him and Dante, we may not be able to squeeze them both under the roster. But I think either one would be conducive to the offense. Conducive to the defense, and really turn around and help wreck opposing offenses. I know we talked about Clowney, but you know what? I don't ever see him now leaving. I don't see him leaving Seattle. I see him signing his contract over in Seattle and calling it a day. But like I said, I think what we really need at this point in time is someone that is going to give us, like I said, leadership in the secondary, which I think is going to be a key. We need someone, some players that can play both on the line and in the outside linebacker position. And we would probably need, like I said, if Ryan Conley comes back, if we sign David Mayo to a team-friendly deal, because like I said, I'm still not sure of his potential, because he had almost 5 years in Carolina and he only had 1 good year. And like I said, we've had the video before, you know what? On a bad team, somebody has to make the tackles. But if we could get someone like Corey Littleton to come over from the Rams, he's only 26 years old. We're looking at someone that had I know he had over 100 tackles the last 2 seasons in 18 and 19. Pretty durable. He's played 16 games the last 4 years, started all 16. He really has a nose for the football, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, 3.5 sacks. It's someone that can solidify the inside linebacking core and allow us to really focus on, like I said, the front 4, getting the push and causing disruption against the opposing offenses. And then, like I said, we look back again, and, we got Leonard Williams potentially we could bring back. We have a great core interior line. It's just we really need to figure out a way to generate. Like I said, if we're going off the defense that he ran in Miami, these are the players. But like I said, what he ran, was that a Brian Flores defense, or was that a Patrick Graham defense? That's kind of what I really need. What we kind of really need to figure out. But if we're going by what he ran in Miami, I think these would be the free agents that he could bring in. We should bring in Mr. Gettleman. And like I said, we're going to kind of – he's a smart – like I said, Patrick Graham seems to be an intelligent guy. Like I said, you don't go to Yale, and get a degree, and say, well, that guy's not that bright. And again, he is a Belichick disciple. He coached under Belichick from 2009 to 2015. So I mean, he's a guy that, like I said, he's a guy that I think he's an intelligent guy. From what I heard from people in Miami, he is a guy that gets the players to play hard. Miami had a lot of young guys and a lot of young talent, and why, like I said, he did not have the statistical success. They said that he commanded his team well, he commanded his troops well, and he got them to play hard. And that's what we need, and that's what I think Joe Judge is trying to bring back to the New York Giants. Again, everyone, thanks for listening. This is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And like I said, again, thanks for listening.